Hey, what is up everyone? Killian here bringing you another video, and this time we're going to be talking about Black Desert Online on the actual MMORPG. With the introduction of Manos equipment, life skilling has been buffed immensely as far as overall silver gains. The primary reason and the reason why most people are starting to actually life skill is referred to as Imperial trading or Imperial crafting. Now, this applies to both Imperial alchemy boxes as well as Imperial cooking. However, this video I'm going to specifically address cooking. So, for those of you who've clicked on the video, you're probably wondering kind of like how to start getting into Imperial cooking. And I wanted to set a very, very clear path of exactly what nodes you need to get and what you need to cook to start making a lot of silver through Imperial crafting. As a quick overview, what you'll find is you have different individuals referred to as Imperial Crafting Delivery, right? This is who you will package up different materials and things like that into and trade them to for silver. If we were to interact with this NPC, this is exactly what we're talking about here. Okay. Now, everything outside of the apprentice, skilled, professional, artisan, master, and guru, all of these other things are either old materials or they are event-based materials. So the only thing we're going to be talking about is apprentice through master, because at the point you're actually doing guru, you probably have a better understanding of what you're doing than what's kind of expected of this video. So, first things first, whenever it comes to this, we're going to talk about the specific nodes and what we need to be looking to gather and start cooking. For those of you who don't know, you probably have seen different videos of how to get contribution, how to, have a worker empire. This video is not going to be going over this. It will just point out the specific nodes that you're going to want to get for this path of Imperial crafting, or Imperial cooking rather. The first ones that I would like to discuss are going to be the Olvia nodes. Paired right next to Olvia, you have both the Whale Farm as well as the Costa Farm. What these obtain for you is going to be your olives, which are considered a vegetable. This is very important. As well as grapes, which are considered a fruit. Once again, very, very important. We'll go into more detail later. The next ones that you're going to want to definitely have in Velia, right next to it at the Bartali farm, you want both the potato and the chicken, but primarily the chicken. The chicken is the one that's really important here. So, and then the Finto farm getting just chicken. You can also have potato here as well if you want to make sure that you have a steady supply of overall dough and flour that you're able to make. But these are the two things that you definitely need, the Finto farm and the Bartali farm. So make sure you have workers working on that. And quick tip, the egg, basically the egg proc from the chicken meat production is a part of luck. And so usually the luckiest of workers are humans. So try and have a human worker on any of the chicken nodes. The next nodes that are of grave importance are going to be the Alejandro farm, which is paired with Hidel right here. This gives you both pumpkin and honey. You need workers running these constantly. Pumpkins are just like olives in the sense that they are considered a vegetable. And then cooking honey is absolutely necessary for so many recipes. And this is one of the only nodes, or actually the only node, which you can obtain cooking honey from. This is arguably one of the most important nodes there is in the game. So make sure you have the cooking honey node. Next up, south of Hidel, we are going to be looking at the Costa farm, primarily for pumpkin. Once again, considered a vegetable, and I'll go into detail in the future with this. I'm also getting wheat from here just to allow to make sure that I can have enough dough and flour and things like that. but those are the only nodes that you actually need constantly running. Everything else is a surplus. The primary honorable mention here would be at the Northern Wheat Plantation. You can also get a paprika node. This is once again considered a vegetable. So, first things first, let's talk about what we're going to be making as an apprentice. So, as an apprentice cook, so you're just starting out, you're just starting to craft, you've maybe made some beer or something like that for your workers, and you're wanting to start making money off of your Imperial crafting. With the apprentice box, there are 3 things that are actually important here. The boiled bird eggs, which take 30, the thick 5-grain chicken porridge, or the grain soup. These are the 3 things in which, from all the nodes that I've already listed off that you should already have running, you are able to make all of these things to start trading in boxes with just those nodes. The boiled bird eggs, and another quick thing, and this is massive for anyone who's getting into any form of crafting, whenever you see a recipe or you see something that you want to craft, like if you're wondering how to make any of these recipes that you see, press F2 and type in what you want. So boiled bird egg, right here. This is the first one that I was referring to. You are looking at purely eggs, which are from your chicken nodes, like I said, that you have a human worker on because they're a proc. Your mineral water, your cooking wine, and your salt are all from vendors. You don't have to have nodes or anything like that running. You purely get them from a cooking vendor found in Hidel, found in Velia, found in Calphion, whatever you need. So that is the first step in the first boxes that you can go about doing. The next up, we're going to be looking at the thick, let's see here, 5-grain chicken porridge. Ground bird meat is done purely by processing your chicken, mineral water, and wheat. Now, keep in mind, whenever you see something like wheat, all this means is it means a like a flour-based or a starchy-based product. So that could be corn, which you can also get from the Logia farm if you want to, or potatoes. So corn, potatoes, wheat, barley, any of those can be interjected with any kind of flour that you see. So it doesn't have to be a specific one that it calls for. So you should be having potato flour, right? Let's see here. You should have potato flour because you have a potato node. You should be getting ground chicken or chicken meat, which you can process into ground bird meat. This is an extremely easy one to make as well. And then also, if you do not want, like let's say you happen to already have a lot of potatoes stockpiled or a lot of corn stockpiled, you can actually switch over and do grain soups instead, a part of the apprentice one. And this one purely takes that material. So your wheat, your potato, things like that. All of these other materials you are able to obtain from the merchant. This is everything that you're going to want to do for Apprentice, which I do believe has a good variety and a good starting point whenever it comes to the Imperial crafting. Next up, we're going to be looking at the Skilled Cook Box. The skilled one isn't quite as nice in my opinion. In fact, I would try and prioritize making apprentice-based items. Even though this is higher silver, the materials that it actually requires and that you're going to be consistently using outside of maybe the omelet here, realistically, you should have like the grilled bird meat become your beer usage instead of packaging it up, because it takes so many to do an Imperial box. You can see how it takes 90 grilled bird meat for an Imperial box, or with omelets it only takes 18. So taking a look at this, if we look at the grilled bird meat, this one you can craft a ton of, because deep frying oil, salt, and cooking wine, once again, are materials purely obtained through the vendor, right? Chicken meat, Once again, instead of having to process it like we saw with the thick 5-grain chicken porridge, you are able to just craft it straight with the chicken meat and not having to use processing time, which isn't necessarily a good or bad thing. It is always wise to level up your processing, and one way to do so is by grinding that chicken meat. But if you want to have something to replace getting beer or having to craft beer over and over and over again, this is how I feed my workers, right? Next up, we're going to be looking at the omelet. So much like we saw with the boiled bird eggs, you now are going to be using 5 eggs, which this is a lot, guys. Like 5 eggs is quite a bit, and I think it's a little bit of an overzealous investment personally, but if you find yourself, having stockpiled a bunch of eggs, stockpiled a bunch of corn, wheat, potatoes, then you can opt to make an omelet instead for the skilled box. Last thing that you can also make is going to be honey wine, which this, as you've been running your honey node, the cooking honey from Alejandro Farm, and then the only other thing you would have to make is an essence of liqueur. Now, essence of liqueur, as you can see, it uses a potato flour, wheat flour, anything that you've grinded for that, and then one fruit. And where's that fruit coming from? The fruit, you can either use your grapes that you've been farming from Olvia, or there's actually a fruit vendor within Calpheon who will sell you strawberries at 650 silver apiece. Okay, you do have the option of stockpiling a massive, massive amount of fruit from Calpheon. However, that typically is a bit more expensive, or obviously you're cutting your profits by purchasing the item. One other really pivotal thing for Calpheon is you have a seed vendor in Calpheon. With this seed vendor, she sells garlic and pepper, which we'll kind of get into in the future, but that is where you want to obtain your seeds specifically for your farming. Once you get past skilled, this is where things begin to open up a little bit, and this is something also that I hope that you do kind of as you're getting up to the professional point. There are only 2 recipes, but these are huge in the professional one: meat pie and pickled vegetables. You know how I've been mentioning vegetables. The pickled vegetables here is where you're going to be using all of them, because all future recipes that we're working with up to master or even through master do not use vegetables in any way, shape, or form. So having these pickled vegetables, this is a huge one that you want to focus on. Now, looking at your meat pie, okay? Meat pie. What are you doing to obtain this? This is a standard dough. Once again, corn, potato, wheat, whatever you're getting as far as a starch. Pork for. So, you do not have to have specifically pork here. You can use any form of meat, or almost any form of meat. The locations that you typically will want to obtain something like this is you will either go to the Forest of Seclusion and kill gray wolves and harvest wolf meat, or you can become the butcher of Goat Mountain, such as myself, and go right here, northwest of Calpheon's farm, and slaughter a shit ton of sheep and lambs. So you either do wolves or you do sheep. Both of these are going to be pivotal, and this is what you should be using your energy on almost, or pretty much every single day. I personally have 3 different characters that I consistently go on to farm both wolves and sheep. Okay? This is where you are going to get all your meat, which is arguably the most important material in your artisan or in your Imperial cooking from professional forward. Okay? Now, other than that, the pickled vegetable. So pickled vegetables, which once again, this cabbage here can be either cabbage, pumpkins, olives, or paprika. Okay, all 4 of those are what you're going to be using to make the pickled vegetables, of which you have what? You have 1 olive node, 2 pumpkin nodes, and a paprika node if you are getting the Calpheon one as well. This will give you a ton of vegetables to constantly craft these Imperial boxes. Next up is the vinegar. Vinegar is the one other thing that you have to craft prior to doing your pickled vegetables, but your wheat, corn, potato, as well as 1 fruit. This is where you're either going to go to Calpheon and buy strawberries or use the grapes you're farming from Olvia. You are going to mass produce vinegar, and then you're going to mass produce your pickled vegetables. Okay? Those are the only 2 that you have to worry about with professional, and you will continue to make pickled vegetables literally until you're guru. Like, this is going to subsidize a large portion of your actual Imperial sales, okay, is by doing the pickled vegetables. Once we move into Artisan is going to be a little bit more in depth, but still we're building on the same materials that we've been focusing on this entire time, okay? Steaks, grilled sausage, and meat soup. As you can hear just from me saying that, you are using meat in every single one of these recipes, okay? The key difference here is going to depend on what you're using farms for. If you are in Hidel, we run over to the material goods vendor up in this location right over here, and you are going to have contribution. Your contribution, you are able to rent... Let's see. You can rent a strong fence from him for 10 contribution. Whenever you rent it, it stays there, and you will basically be able to place it. So I personally have my my farms, as you can see right over here in Velia. You can see I am farming garlic and I am farming pepper at this current time. These are what I am currently farming. The sooner that you can have a farm running, and I have a specific alt that I have parked right next to it. This character right here, it's a level 20 Dark Knight. I have it sitting next to my farms, and this is the only character that I do farming on. So, moving into what we're going to make with Artisan. So, let's see here. If we look at steak, this is what I have personally been making. With steak, it takes 8 pork, 2 red sauce, 2 garlic. You saw how I was farming garlic, 2 salt. Red sauce, much like the vinegar for the pickled vegetables that we were doing, red sauce requires you to craft something else. But it takes outside of the materials that you're able to buy from a vendor is 1 more pork. So you are going to mass produce things like the red sauce and like the vinegar so you can make your pickled vegetables and make your steaks. Okay. Another option that you have instead of going with steak is going with grilled sausage. Now, grilled sausage is actually very, very good if you're not going to be bundling these together. And this is like 5-head big brain stuff that you're going to be... If you save a ton of your grilled sausage, it's used in the higher up guru like meal boxes. In my opinion, I think it's best just to make the money as soon as you can. Pork, so it takes 6 pork or any form of meat instead of 8 like we saw with the steak. However, it does take both onions and pepper. So the farms that you have running right next to Velia or outside of Hidel, you're going to need to do 2 separate materials here, okay? 2 separate materials versus just the garlic that you're seeing with steak. However, you are saving money and saving overall energy use from having to go cause mass genocide on Goat Mountain and killing all the wolves. All right. Lastly is meat soup. So meat soup is going to kind of follow along the same lines. It requires pepper, which, as you saw, I am making that. It requires less of your overall meat, even compared to that of the grilled sausage. However, it requires cream. Right now, whenever you turn in an Imperial box, you actually get a little RNG box, which may give you cream or milk or things along those lines. This is going to be along the same lines of crafting something like the red sauce. In my opinion, I do think that steak or grilled sausage is the way to go at this point, but I figured if you are short on characters that you're able to farm and butcher over in these areas, I think reducing the meat and going something with like a meat soup is definitely a viable option. Now, leading up to everything, we are finally at master tier, making pretty solid silver. Like, you see the people who are spending a lot of time with their overall crafting, you're always going to see masters already being sold out and gurus already being sold out. So this is something to note, guys. You can only turn in a limited number of these boxes every single day. That amount also is limited based on your overall contribution. I can turn in 116 boxes, which will net me around 60 to 70 million silver when I'm doing my steaks and doing my pickled vegetables, versus the people with Guru making probably around 120 million to plus a day from turning these things in. Now, master, you are looking at milk teas, honeycomb cookies, and lastly, meat croquets. Okay? So, first, I'm going to go into milk tea. Milk tea is pretty staple with everything. You are going to be using a couple of materials that we haven't used up to this point. You see your cooking honey. You should have had this node running the entire time. You have your milk. You get these from the actual the reward boxes from it, or you have alts that are parked up in Olvia. There's literally cows right here that you can do a milking minigame and obtain milk from. Milk is a massive bottleneck for anyone who is crafting or is cooking, okay? Looking back at the milk tea, the main thing is the tea with fine scent. This is what you're going to craft up to, basically to make your milk teas as a turn-in. The apples, this is where you're going to be using strawberries that you bought from Calpheon or grapes, okay? You're going to be using even more cooking honey, and then you're going to use some form of flour. I personally have never actually farmed flowers. You would typically do sunflowers if you're going to do something like this, of which you will actually cook using special sunflowers or special, let me see here, sunflower. So you will actually cook using either high quality or special sunflowers. The reason why is because it will take a reduced amount to make your tea with fine scent. You can literally use one special sunflower instead of 4 normal sunflowers to craft your tea. Okay. You can use slots making special sunflowers at your farm. I personally have never done this. I've always focused on my onions, my garlic, and my pepper. Okay. So that's one investment that I actually do make whenever it comes to being able to make the master boxes. Lastly, we are going to be looking at the honeycomb. So the honeycomb cookie, once again, bottlenecking here. Your milk. Eggs, we have that from the chicken node. Wheat dough, we have that from the potato nodes. And then cooking honey, which you got from your honey node that you've had running this entire time that you've been running up to the master tier. Okay. All of these, literally all of these materials outside of like milk, you've just been have auto generating for you. Okay. Next, or the last item on this whole entire video, is going to be the meat croquet. Still utilizing something that requires milk, being cheese, okay? Pork, 8. So just like you were making steaks, it's using the same amount of materials. Having your flour, guess what? Potatoes. Eggs, you've been having these generate the entire time. Deep frying oil, guess what? You buy that from a vendor. The only thing that you're going to be bottlenecked here by is cheese. Okay. Cheese is processed through milk using I think it's drying. But this is where you want to make sure to have all of your alts. You want some alts sitting up here in Olvia, which you're going to milk cows with. You're going to want your farming alt basically your farming alt to be working on your different farms that you've obtained right outside Velia. And then you're going to have probably your main, who's doing the cooking, go farm all the goats here or go farm all the wolves here. As you can see, we basically built a streamlined process from Apprentice, the very beginning steps of cooking, all the way to Masters, which you're making, almost 100+ million silver a day by turning in these boxes, right? From a collective of around 5 nodes and a couple of daily things that you want to do. You want to farm, you want to get milk, you want to slaughter goats. All right. I'm sorry for the very long video in this situation, guys. I'm going to put timestamps down in the bottom. Hopefully you found this informational. And going forward, make some silver. The last tidbit of information that I am going to give you, though, is that when you are crafting these boxes, as you can see, higher grade versions of the same food can be used as a substitute of a 1-to-3 ratio. If you make 15 steaks, but then you have 5 juicy steaks, those 5 juicy steaks, which are basically a proc while crafting it equal an entire artisan cooking box. Okay. Thank you all for watching. Hopefully this was a solid roadmap. I'll catch y'all next time. Don't forget to follow me on twitch.tv/Kilrian or watch me live stream on YouTube as well. But catch y'all next time, guys. Peace, peace.